So this is something that MRAs knew was going to happen. It is now an issue in India where trans people are being raped and they don't have any legal protection. Take a look at this article, and this really annoys me because you know what, CNN? MRAs have been saying this for years. Here's the headline: India's rape laws don't cover transgender people. They say it's putting them at risk.
So here's the deal: trans people in India do not have equal protection under rape because Indian rape laws are gender specific. Men are not protected under law in India when it comes to sexual assault. Now, MRAs have talked about this for a long time, and we've criticized feminists for this for a long time. And I did a video about it if you want to watch it. But basically, what it is in India, they very specifically define rape as only women are victims and only men are perpetrators. So if a woman, let's say, uses drugs or alcohol to sexually assault a man and have sex without his consent, it's not considered rape under Indian law because the laws are written in a gendered way. Now, this is affecting trans people because under law, they don't fit the definition and categorization of rape, and it's becoming a problem. So all of a sudden, now, feminists are beginning to notice this issue. But it's funny how they'd never noticed it when a cis man was being raped. But at least it's getting some attention now. So let's take a look. By the way, all links to the articles that you see in this video and my old video on Indian rape laws are in the description below. But let's see what this article says. According to a survey of nearly 5,000 transgender people by the National AIDS Control Organization in 2014-2015, and I don't think AIDS means HIV in this case, 1/5 said they had experienced sexual violence in the past 12 months. But activists like Diaz says India's rape laws make it almost impossible for transgender people to get justice because they define perpetrators as men and victims as women. And this is exactly the point MRAs are trying to make. Look at that last line. Rape laws are defined as only men can be perpetrators and only women can be victims. Legally speaking, that's how the law is written. The next paragraph: India has imposed tougher penalties for rape in recent years after a series of sickening attacks on women and girls prompted nationwide protests. But activists say not enough is being done to protect other genders. Now, you may think there's no way the law in India actually says that if you rape a man, it's not actually considered rape. But that's actually the law. Read the links, watch my video that I put in the description below, and it does explain that is literally the law in India. You'll see in this article, and you'll see in the article I posted before, and the video I did. And the reason why men and boys are not protected under law for rape in India is because of feminists. And that's not just me doing a conspiracy theory, they are directly quoted, as you'll see in this video, and the last video, and the articles. This is what Indian feminists have done. They have campaigned to make the law gendered in such a way that raping a man is not considered rape, which is, by the way, similar to what UK feminists try to do for domestic violence, basically trying to make domestic violence against men legal indirectly by changing the laws for domestic violence to only apply to women and define only women as victims and only men as perpetrators. Okay, now here the article talks about a national committee talking about rape laws, and you'll see how specifically the gendered nature of rape is mentioned. The Justice Verma Committee made a number of recommendations, including widening the definition of rape to include anal and oral penetration by any object. It also advised stricter punishments for repeat offenders, gang rape, and fatal attacks. The report also said that laws should be extended to include sexual crimes against victims who aren't women. Since the possibility of sexual assault on men, as well as homosexual, transgender, and transgender rape, is a reality, the provisions have to be cognizant of the same, the report said. So basically saying that sexual assault against men and trans men and gay men happen, and therefore the law should recognize that. Sounds pretty fair, right? Okay, so back to the article. This is what feminist groups are saying and have said. Women's rights activists have argued against making the law gender neutral for victims and perpetrators, fearing it could make women more vulnerable. And the quote, "We were not against making the victim gender neutral, but blanket gender neutrality would allow men to take revenge by filing a counter complaint." Basically meaning they could file a accusation against their accuser, said Seema Kushwaha, the lawyer who represented the victim's family in the Delhi gang rape case. So that's very typical of the kind of manipulative and disingenuous language that you get from people who argue not in good faith, saying, well, we weren't against making the law gender neutral, but that's what we did anyway. What do you mean you weren't against making the law gender neutral? That was your entire argument. That's what you did. Just throwing out the phrase, we weren't against making it gender neutral, that means nothing because that's what you did. So don't say we weren't against doing it, because you did it. That's what you did. And think about this too. Feminists are actually using false rape accusations as part of their argument as to why men should not be protected under rape laws. But wait a minute, I thought feminists always say that false accusations of rape are very rare and aren't really a big deal. But now that the genders are reversed, feminists aren't just saying, oh yeah, we think false accusations exist. They're saying that false accusations are so serious and so prevalent that it's the reason why men and boys should be excluded and discriminated against in rape laws. I mean, that's just so ironic and hypocritical. If you don't think false rape accusations are a big deal and you think they're so rare, how can that be your main argument as to why men should be left out of laws for rape and sexual assault? It makes absolutely no sense. It's completely hypocritical and it's complete doublethink. And if you're a feminist and you repeat that argument, really think about why. What are you saying? And are your views consistent? Okay, so here's feminists talking directly about how they think rape should be handled under Indian law by gender. And this is why we say that Indian feminists are basically trying to, and have kind of succeeded in making rape against men legal, or at least not a very serious crime. Take a look. However, women's rights activists continue to oppose efforts to make all sexual crimes gender neutral. They say perpetrators should, by definition, be restricted to men. So if a woman commits sexual assault, by definition, because she's a woman, feminists are saying that should not be considered rape. The next paragraph, according to Kushwaha, the lawyer in the Delhi rape case, making all sexual crimes gender neutral would negate the law's intended purposes of protecting women from gender-based violence in India's patriarchal society. Okay, so basically defending the idea of gender roles and gender stereotypes that men can't be raped. Because wait a minute, I thought feminists always say that equality is not a zero-sum game. It negates the original purpose to protect female victims of rape. But how? How does protecting men hurt female victims? Like, how does protecting male victims hurt female victims? Like, women should be protected under law. Of course, no question about it. But why does that mean you can't protect men and boys under law? Like, why is it that they're saying if you include male rape victims, if you recognize male victims of rape, somehow this is going against the purpose of protecting women? Why can't you do both? And here's a big difference between MRAs and feminists, and why I call myself an MRA and an anti-feminist. This article illustrates exactly the kind of thinking that MRAs have. So if you're wondering how come so many young guys call themselves anti-feminists, okay, here's why. MRAs think that rape should always be illegal, no matter who the victim is. But feminists don't. There are some instances of rape where, depending on the gender of the victim, feminists think that rape should be legal. Or at least feminists in India. And I'm not saying all feminists, or even most feminists, but the feminist organizations that have political influence, this is what they're thinking, and this is what they're doing. And you can't deny that because they're quoted saying it. This is what feminist groups in India are actually saying. They think that raping men should be legal. And they don't say that directly, They don't spell it out per se, but that is exactly what they're doing. And if they weren't, then this article wouldn't be a thing. But even to CNN and Feminists in America, this issue only became a story for you because now you're seeing how trans people are affected. And MRAs totally agree that trans people deserve exactly the same legal rights and protection as anyone else. But for you, it only became an issue when it was trans people being affected. When it was cis men and boys being affected, you didn't say a single thing. We've been saying this for years. You didn't say a word. To me, that says something in and of itself. So here's the accusation that I'm making. And if you think it's extreme and if you think it's unfair, then let me know in the comments below and explain to me why. But it seems to me like most feminists anywhere in the world, and pretty much every single feminist group, because I've never seen any feminist group talk about this, they do not care that raping men and boys in India is not given equal protection under law. Why not? If feminism was really for men too, and feminism really supported equality for everybody, then you would be saying something about why it's legal to rape men and boys in India. Or at least why it's not considered quite as bad under law to rape men and boys under India. It's not really considered rape, and it's considered a lesser crime. And I know a lot of people will be saying, oh, this is me saying, what about the men's? Well, yeah, what about the men? What about rape? What about sexual assault? What about how you can rape or sexually assault someone in India and it's not considered as bad of a crime? Because Indian males are 10% of the population. So me pointing out, MRAs pointing out how they don't have equal protection for rape under law, that's not what about the men's. That's a pretty damn valid point. And if you don't think so, I want to know why.